Ever wondered what Trump will do if he gets back in office? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're diving deep into the supposed master plan to make America great again. Part 2. Think of it as a slightly terrifying, slightly confusing, and always entertaining roller coaster ride through the mind of a man who once tweeted that he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and not lose any voters. All right, let's address the elephant, or should I say, the wall, in the room. Trump's love affair with the border wall is about as subtle as a WWE SmackDown. He's vowed to not only finish the wall, but also to somehow make Mexico pay for it. And it's not just about the wall, folks. Trump's immigration plan involves a whole buffet of hardline policies, from ramping up deportations to slashing legal immigration. But when your solution to a nuanced problem is essentially to build a bigger fence and yell at your neighbors, you might want to go back to the drawing board. I bet you didn't know that tax cuts could be so controversial. Trump's promising another round of those sweet, sweet tax cuts, claiming they'll boost the economy and create jobs. It's the same trickle-down economics theory that's been peddled for decades, despite the fact that it's about as effective as a screen door on a submarine. But who knows? Maybe this time will be different. Or maybe, just maybe, it'll be another case of the rich getting richer and the rest of us wondering why we ever fell for it again. Remember Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act? Well, hold on to your hats, folks, because Trump's back with another attempt to dismantle the American healthcare system. He's promised something amazing that will provide better healthcare for everybody at a much lower cost. But here's the thing about unicorns. They don't exist, and neither does a healthcare plan that magically provides more coverage for less money. So, what can we expect from Trump's healthcare plan? Well, if history is any indication, it's going to involve a lot of finger-pointing, empty promises, and millions of Americans potentially losing their health insurance. Trade deals. They're like the Brussels sprouts of international relations. Trump fancies himself a master negotiator, the tariff man who can bully other countries into giving America the best deals. He seems to view international trade as a zero-sum game, where one country's gain is inherently another's loss. So, what's on Trump's trade agenda? Renegotiate existing trade deals and impose tariffs on pretty much anything that moves. The problem is, these trade wars and tariff tantrums have real-world consequences, driving up prices for consumers and hurting American businesses. In the immortal words of every action movie hero ever, get to the choppers. Or, in Trump's case, get to the tanks, the fighter jets, and the aircraft carriers. He's vowed to increase military spending to levels that would make even the most hawkish general blush. Supporting our troops is important, but there's a difference between supporting our veterans and throwing money at the military-industrial complex, especially when that money could be used for things like education, healthcare, or infrastructure. But hey, who needs well-funded schools and hospitals when you can have shiny new weapons systems? Regulations. Those pesky little rules and laws designed to protect things like our air, water, and, our general well-being. Trump's promise to dismantle regulations at a pace that would make even the most ardent libertarian blush. Environmental protections? Gone. Financial regulations? See you later. Worker safety standards? Who needs them? Now, I understand that some regulations can be burdensome and stifle innovation, but the idea that we can just deregulate our way to prosperity is delusional, dangerous, and likely to have disastrous consequences for our health, our environment, and our economy. Education. The great equalizer. The key to opportunity. Trump's education plan is like a school lunch menu designed by a group of lobbyists, heavy on the processed stuff, light on the things that are actually good for you. His big idea? School choice. Trump's version of school choice is less about empowering parents and more about diverting public funds to private schools, many of which lack oversight and accountability. And don't even get me started on his plans for higher education, which seem to involve making college even more expensive and saddling students with mountains of debt. Remember Infrastructure Week? That magical 7-day period back in 2017, when Trump promised to unveil his grand plan to rebuild America's crumbling roads, bridges, and airports. It was supposed to be a transformative moment, a turning point where the nation would finally address its aging and failing infrastructure. Yeah, that never actually happened. The grand plan never materialized, and the much-anticipated Infrastructure Week became a running joke, a symbol of unfulfilled promises and political gridlock. But fear not, for Trump is back with a bold new vision for infrastructure. Or at least, that's what he claims. This time, he assures us, things will be different. A vision that's, well, remarkably similar to the one he had 4 years ago. The same grandiose promises, the same sweeping statements about rebuilding the nation's backbone. Details on how he plans to pay for this infrastructure extravaganza are about as clear as the water coming out of a Flint, Michigan faucet. The financial blueprint remains murky, with no concrete funding strategy in sight. He's floated ideas like public-private partnerships, which are basically just fancy ways of saying, let's have taxpayers foot the bill while private companies reap the profits. These partnerships often lead to higher costs for the public and greater profits for private entities. If you're going to promise to rebuild our roads and bridges, you might want to have a slightly more concrete plan, then we'll figure it out later. The American people deserve a detailed, actionable plan, not just lofty rhetoric and vague assurances. The need for infrastructure improvement is real and urgent, and it requires more than just political posturing. It requires commitment, transparency, and a clear path forward. In Trump's America, there are two kinds of people, the good guys and the bad hombres. His approach to law and order is often described as tough on crime. He's promised to increase efforts to reduce crime, which in Trump speak seems to translate to stricter law enforcement policies. This tough-on-crime stance is frequently highlighted in his speeches and tweets, where he emphasizes the need to address criminal activities. He supports stop-and-frisk policing, a controversial practice that has been debated for its effectiveness and impact on communities. Critics argue that it disproportionately targets people of color, while supporters believe it is a necessary tool for maintaining public safety. The data on stop and frisk is mixed, with some studies suggesting it does not significantly reduce crime, while others highlight its role in proactive policing. The debate continues on whether this approach promotes justice or perpetuates existing issues within the system. The United States has one of the highest incarceration rates in the world, and policies like these contribute to the number of people in prison. This approach often focuses on punitive measures rather than addressing the root causes of crime, such as poverty, lack of education, and limited economic opportunities. There is ongoing discussion about the best ways to create lasting change and reduce crime, with some advocating for rehabilitation and community support over punishment. True justice may require a more comprehensive approach that balances law enforcement with efforts to address underlying social and economic issues. Remember that scene in Armageddon where Bruce Willis blows up an asteroid to save the planet? It was a dramatic, high-stakes moment that had everyone on the edge of their seats. Well, Trump's energy plan is kind of like that, except instead of blowing up an asteroid, he's blowing up the planet. His approach to energy policy is not about saving the world, but rather exploiting it to the last drop. He's a big believer in energy dominance, which is just a fancy way of saying, let's extract every last drop of fossil fuel we can get our hands on, regardless of the environmental consequences. This means more oil rigs, more pipelines, and more drilling in places that were once protected. He's rolled back environmental regulations, opened up protected lands to drilling, and pulled the US out of the Paris Climate Agreement. These actions have far-reaching implications, not just for the US, but for the entire world. There's a difference between being energy independent and turning our planet into a giant greenhouse gas chamber. Energy independence can be achieved through renewable sources like wind and solar, which are sustainable and have minimal environmental impact. Trump's energy plan is short-sighted, reckless, and likely to have devastating consequences for our planet. The impacts of climate change are already being felt around the world, from melting glaciers to raging wildfires. Continuing down this path only accelerates the damage. Instead of doubling down on fossil fuels, we should be investing in clean energy technologies that can provide jobs, reduce emissions, and protect our environment. The future of energy should be about sustainability and innovation, not destruction and exploitation. It's time to rethink our approach to energy. We need policies that prioritize the health of our planet and the well-being of future generations. The choice is clear. We can either continue on a path to environmental Armageddon, or we can strive for true energy independence that respects and preserves our world. Well, there you have it. a whirlwind tour of Trump's bold plans for 2024. From immigration to healthcare to the environment, he's promising to shake things up, to disrupt the status quo, to make America, well, you know the rest. So, which policies are you looking forward to Trump implementing? Which ones concern you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful videos.